Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with wristbands fall. The Robins superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might. For your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Robin Pod Weekly, which is brought to you by Budget Tyres Autocentre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of the world-famous Hull Kingston Rovers. Joining me on this week's episode is Robin Pod regular, Bazza Kingston. Welcome to the Robin Pod, Bazza.
Yeah, pleasure to be back on, Jono. Thanks for having us. Great times, lovely weather, Rovers winning. What more do we want?
2 in a row, Bazza. And some people were very kind to you, with their comments about your age. Because, of course, when you was on last week's episode, we posed a question, didn't we? We asked people to guess how old you was. And I think some people were kind. Some people were not very kind as well, Bazza. Although, big tongue in cheek. And, you're a big boy. You can take that, can't you?
Yeah, mate. It was all good sports, mate. It was a good giggle, but yeah, steady 41, mate. That's how old I am. But great field lad. I had a rough paper on when I was younger, so that's probably why I look like I'm in my 50s.
Hey, funny enough, talking of paper rounds, I was driving back from where was I driving? From Cottingham the other day. I saw this old boy on his bike with a paper bag. You must have been about 80 odd doing the paper round. Yeah,
Jesus.
But yeah, dying tradition in it, paper boys. Anyway, we digress. Let's concentrate on Hull Kingston Rovers. Obviously, a change to how we normally bring the Robin Pod. We're bringing it to the day after the game against Catalans because, of course, we're in sort of uncharted territory. People will remember. I think it was at the Championship season where we played. 3 games in a short space of time, and of course, don't forget back in the 80s where there was playing. 80s, 70s, 60s, where it was playing midweek, weekend, midweek. So it's not totally uncharted territory for the club, but in the professional era, this is very unusual, apart from when we used to have the Easter games, didn't we? And they had to back up on the bank holiday Monday. But we're bringing this after the Catalan victory. Of course, previous to that was the game against Castleford. We welcome Warrington to Group Craven Park on Tuesday night. And of course, then we take on Toulouse next Saturday. So it's a tough run of games. Bazza, let's go back to that game against Castleford very briefly. It was a game won at a canter, wasn't it? And don't get me wrong, Castleford had so many things going on. My worry was that the players maybe would rally and stick a middle finger up to Ryan Carr after his criticism of some of them players. Strange atmosphere at the ground, lots of Castleford fans not happy, but the Robins ultimately ruled supreme and were well deserving of a comprehensive victory.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one at Castleford. I mean, you got to give Cass a bit of credit because for the first 15, 20 minutes, there was absolutely nothing between the sides. But Rovers was very patient in that game. We went in at half time. It was only 10-0, and don't get me wrong, we scored some fabulous tries, very easy on the eye tries for the likes of Jez Litton and Tom Davis. But it was a weird atmosphere. It was great in the Rovers end, but there's problems at Castleford when I don't want to name the players, but when certain individuals for Castleford was receiving the ball on like the first player, and they was getting booed by their own fans, it was quite surreal, if I'm honest with you. And the amount of support for Ryan Carr amongst the Castleford faithful, it was just a strange atmosphere. And and credit to OKR because they just did a professional job. They seemed to shut out the outside noise, went there to do and did what they had to do, and you know it was a game for me personally. What you can be proud of, more of the defensive aspects. We didn't concede a single line break, and you know I later read that we've got like the most. You know we've conceded the least line breaks in Super League this year, which you know is quite surprising considering the inconsistencies we've had. So to not concede a single line break, let alone a single point against Castleford, was absolute testament to the boys. And you know it was a job well done in my opinion. And personally, I know we'll get into it. I thought it was a little bit chalk and cheese with the way we turned up against Catalan because they was cutting through us so easily on many occasions. But going back to the Castleford game, mate, I thought we did really well. I thought our defensive effort was absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and you know, the Robins did get the job done, didn't they? It was all about getting the job done. They got a free breakfast, of course, famously. They got to celebrate that 0, didn't they? And I do think, Bazza, like, you know, we are conceding, even when we're winning at a canter and we're winning well, we are still conceding some sloppy tries. We're going to mention the Catalan game and talk about that in a bit more depth very shortly. But there is a bit of a soft underbelly with this side at the moment. They do concede some easy tries that, well, you know, we can't keep going back to last year, can we? We can't keep talking about last season, but tries that I dare say we would have conceded last season.
Yeah, and that is like the worrying factor. We've seen it a few times. We saw it against York when John Bennison scored, and against Bradford when Connor Wynn scored, and you know they had absolutely no right to. And we saw these breakaway tries from Catalan last night. Well, tries. I think
look at Charlie Staines. You mentioned Connor Wynn. Look at Charlie Staines. You know,
from 10 20 metres out, it's breaking through, and you've got to scratch your head and ask why is this happening, and it's not happening on the edges, it's happening through the middle. We've seen that on numerous occasions this year. Like I go back to the Huddersfield game very early on in the season, they was getting through our middle quite easily, and I still think we've got a couple of little weaknesses in the middle, and you know it's easy to be critical, but we know we're capable and we know we're better than that. And it's a little bit disappointing at times. I mean, the display we're putting against Castleford, the defensive effort, we defended as one. And then what we saw last night against Catalan, we seemed a little bit all over. And I know you could say the conditions was a mitigating factor, because it was incredibly humid at Craven Park yesterday, and the boys looked a bit shot, you know, in stages of that game. But personally, you've got to be better than that. I mean, Tom Davis, you know, he nearly had Charlie Staines, you know, when Charlie broke away. So it's them little 1%ers. But what you've got to ask yourself is, how is he getting to that point? How is he getting through the middle? And you know, we do need to be better. But as far as I'm concerned, so far, in my eyes, we've gone 3 from 3 without Mikey Lewis, and ultimately that is the most important thing. Now we just keep ticking by and knocking these little wins off, mate. The best is still yet to come, and I'm not seeing it through rose-tinted glasses, but we do have improvement in us, and we can improve. But we do need to improve against the better teams, and we will come on to it against Warrington, and that is going to be one hell of a test.
Yeah, and I think the point we're trying to make is, Baz, isn't it, that it's all right conceding 10 against Catalan when the game's won and there's not a threat. But if you concede 10 against a Wigan or a Leeds, or in a game against Warrington on Tuesday, for example, sometimes there ain't no coming back from that because the games are that tight. And if they shut up shop like they have done in the past, it becomes very difficult for us. And like you said, it's the 1%ers, it's the marginal gains, it's the extra efforts which we became accustomed to last season, which shut out the opposition, which we're not doing as much, I don't think, this season. But, you know, I suppose when the game is won so easily, like we have been doing over the last few games, particularly while Mikey Lewis has been absent, there's probably, there's something in that. I suppose if we move to the Catalan game, it really was a game of two halves, wasn't it? Willie Peters described in the post-match press conference the second half as average at best. First half was sparkling, some absolutely scintillating rugby league. We seem to have Catalan, absolutely dead and buried in that first half. Second half, I know it felt like the game was won. Catalan, don't get me wrong as well, Bazza, they started spraying the ball out. It was almost like they'd gone into like a training session. It was almost like, go away from the plan, just get that ball moving and see what can happen. What did you make of the game overall, Bazza?
I thought the first 20, before that hydration break, I thought we were solid. The defensive line was moving up as one. We was aggressive. We was clean. And for me, we was all Kingston Rovers in that first 20. I felt after that hydration break in that first half, I felt like Catalan had readjusted and started flinging the ball out more. And I feel like that's Rovers' problem so far is we can't deal with teams who are expansive and throw the ball about. And I don't feel like that's where we lack in parts of games. Like we just don't seem to deal with it well. We don't deal with the offloads, and when a team's playing us and they're really expansive, I feel like we struggle at times, and Catalan exploited that on a couple of occasions. That second half, Catalan it felt like they had absolutely nothing to lose, and like you say, there was throwing the ball about, and there was a real threat. I don't think Liam Rush had his best game, and OKR giving Catalan a leg up, and I felt like at times the ref was in favour of Catalan, and fair play, they still didn't get over. But in that second half, we had a period where we'd not been on the Catalan line, and when we did get an opportunity, we was throwing them stupid miracle balls and it not coming off. And for me personally, I don't think we'd earned the right to do that. I felt like we needed to go back to what we did in that first half and build pressure, get in the ground, and earn the right to throw that ball about. And as soon as we got in Catalan's 20 in that second half, whether it was on second or third play, we was just making some dumb plays, some dumb offloads, and we was coughing the ball up. And that's the areas where we do need to be better. And we've said it time and time again, we just need to be patient and keep building and not go for that miracle play. We need to earn the right, pin them back on the line, put the pressure on, tire them out, and then go for the jugular. And I felt in that second half there was just going for the miracle play. And, thankfully it didn't cost us, but in the bigger games we do need to be better in that area.
No, maybe that's a sign, Bazza, of how confident there was in knowing the victory was done. It was there, wasn't it? And that's maybe why they started being a bit more expansive. But I doubt they'll have got that call from Willie Peters. I can't imagine Willie Peters sending that message down to the players. So hey, look, that's maybe on them. And look, when they're against opposition such as Catalan, Castleford last week, players do sort of maybe get a bit more confident. Now, for us, it's all about sticking to the plan, isn't it? Willie Peters has always been about stick to the plan. If you stick to the plan, it'll get you the victory. And like we've already said, that first half, it looked like a Rovers performance, one that we've become accustomed to for a couple of years now. Some of the tries, the speed. I've got no problem with our attack at the moment, Bazza. I think over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think they've really stepped up. Don't get me wrong. I think Jez Litton's played a huge part in that, in terms of his game seems to have stepped up a notch since he's been back, and he's really now injecting the pace into the side. And I think the team are responding to that. And you look at some of the tries that we did score, absolutely fantastic rugby league, and for me, the attack isn't the issue. It's still the defence. It's just the sloppy tries that we've conceded, like we mentioned. That Charlie Staines try, there was multiple opportunities to stop him, and we've seen it before where we gift them the opportunity to to play into space and sidestep and make that run. And even when he went out to the left, I still thought we was going to get him. I thought we was going to get it. And he's, don't get me wrong, I think Charlie Staines is top meter maker in Super League. He's a quick boy, and he's definitely got a sidestep. But again, we've seen that's Bevan French in it. We've seen Rovers concede them tries out of nothing, and like we've said, we can't keep doing it because in a game that matters, it's going to become really important. Sam Luckley started. I think I was listening to the radio on the way to the game last night. I can't remember the start. Is it 2 years or something like that? 18 months since you last started for the Robins, might even be longer. He took Sauto Sue's starting berth. Of course, he was injured. But I didn't expect to see Luckley starting.
No, neither did I. And you've got to be honest, for that first 15 minutes, I don't think he let us down. He didn't have an error in him. I thought he was solid. He run the ball hard. It was just what we needed. You want your prop to bite down on his gum shield and drive it hard. And I thought he tackled really well. He did a really good, solid 15 minutes. I was impressed with him. I don't like bagging on any of our boys, but I thought Tom Amon was a little less ineffective in that game. He had a couple of errors in him.
It didn't look like he had the energy that he's had in previous games.
Yeah, and that is like you say, that's a concern of mine. But I thought Willie managed some of the players' minutes a lot better. Like you say, starting Sam, which was great, as in we hadn't seen Sam start for some time. And I know he don't do massive minutes, but it didn't let us down. My only concern with our pack is the likes of Dino, which we say time and time again, is getting flogged week in, week out.
I was going to say it was over 80 minutes, wasn't it? He didn't go off. Yeah,
exactly. And in conditions like this, it's mental, and you've just got to tip your hat to Dino for doing what he does, because let's face it, we're all crying for him to do some fewer minutes, not to burn him out, but the lad just keeps going and going, and that's massive testament to Dino. And another one is James Batch, because I feel like sometimes he gets a bit of negative criticism, but if you actually look what he does for us defensively, he's absolutely outstanding, and he's another one who does the minutes and doesn't seem to get a break and gives his all. So I've got no complaints. I thought we rotated our pack pretty well. It was a pleasure to see Bill Leyland come on the field. I thought he did bring us a little bit of energy. I was surprised to see Jez stay on, because I think he's another one, maybe manages minutes a little bit more. But there's this reported injury of Tyrone. Is it mind games or not? I'm not too sure. But
Tyrone May went off after the try, didn't he? And then we saw Leyland come in. We saw Jez Litton then revert into the halves. I dare say if May didn't go off, it might have been Leyland for Litton, maybe the last 10 minutes, to spell him. Pitt also with the Dean Hadley one, I wonder if the injury or the HIA test that Davis had to go through, whether obviously Minchella then came back on after he'd been taken off with Carl Lawton, obviously that 10 minute before our time and the 10 minute afterwards, where Minchella normally gets his rest, that was sort of tampered a little bit, wasn't it, by the fact that Davis was off. So I wonder if maybe Hadley would have been maybe taken off at that, later on in the game if they hadn't had that interchange. But, we speculate, we don't know, do we? But all the talk, we don't know about Tyrone May's injury. Willie Peters doesn't know what it is. He said Tyrone May's a tough boy. He don't normally go down injured, so if he feels something, he said he was hoping it was a muscular injury, so something like, something that ain't too serious, but they don't know. Do you think that if Tyrone May, and we'll talk about the Warrington game in more detail after Robin's revisited with Steve Till, that if Tyrone May doesn't play, and of course we've got Mikey Lewis coming back, that it's more likely that Jez Litton may fill in the halves than it is Charles?
Well, it's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be one what all Willie Peters has said for weeks and weeks and weeks is the reason Jack Charles hasn't really been on, because he tends to play right side where Tyrone May is. if Tyrone May is injured, it'll be interesting. This is Jack's opportunity. But there's the speculation with salary cap. Will it trigger? Will it put us over? We're not too sure. I personally believe it could be mind games because we saw Tyrone. I think he took a knock very early on in that second half or late in the first half. I'm not 100%, can't remember. He got strapped up and it was fine. And like you say, it come off late in the second half and it looks absolutely fine, which is why I was surprised to see that there's an injury. Is it mind games going into the Warrington game? I hope so. Jesus, I really do hope so. But if he is injured, for me, Jez isn't the answer to go in that place because then you've got two left-footed kickers in your halves, one on the left, one on the right. The fans have been crying out. Which is
exactly the reason why Jack Charles isn't playing when Michael Lewis is.
Exactly my point. So yeah. For me, put your money where your mouth is, and the fans have been crying out for Jack Charles. If we have got that, if we are in a position where he's able to play, this is the chance for him to take his opportunity. I dare say it'll more likely be Hampshire because he's another one in the halves. He's never let us down, but as many of us, thousands of Rovers fans, I'd love to see Jack Charles get an opportunity. This could be it, but we also need to remember how massive this game against Warrington is. It is arguably the biggest game of the season for us, barring Challenge Cup and Brisbane. So I think we need to be smart who goes in the halves, and we need to have a good game plan because we're going to have a very, very good halfback partnership in front of us.
Yeah,
so
and
to get it right.
I'll tell you what, Bazza, one thing that we do need to improve on, and it has been a feature, and we've already talked about defence. If I said to you, one team last night missed 18 tackles and one team missed 44 tackles, which team would you think it was?
Mate, it's okay. I missed 44. It's what we do all year. Mate,
44 even missed tackles.
We do it all the time. And credit to the... I feel like I feel like a parent justifying bad behaviour, but we was quite high up on missed tackles in 2025, and now it's how these stats perceive a missed tackle. It could be somebody bumping someone off, taking the sting out of a run. That's classed as a missed tackle. But last night there was some very, very sloppy missed tackles, and it's quite frankly not good enough. And it just seems to be the story of our year with the amount of tackles we're missing this year, mate. It's just not good enough.
No, I mean, to counter that, we had a completion rate of 93%. I mean, completion rate, you can't. That's one stat I never looked so much into because you look at how many tries that the Robins score on third and fourth tackles as well. There's not necessarily to go through there. One player I thought who did have a really good game and he's not been mentioned, and I think he had a good game, particularly because he's been playing in a position where he hasn't been that great so far this season, was Reece Martin. Got through a tremendous amount of work, 16 tackles, made the most carries out of any player on the pitch for the Robins, 25 carries, 193 metres, average gain of 8. Now, I saw some people questioning whether Reece Martin should be playing that centre role, whether Noah Booth. And don't forget as well, Louis Gorman, he was named 18th man, natural position is centre, so can see that. But I did see when they was lining up against Nick Hotterich, who can be, don't get me wrong, a bit, rocks or diamonds in his performances, but I did think that they probably needed an experienced player to go up against him, for example. But yeah, great performance from him in terms of the meters that he made. And, one of a number of players who made some really good meters, of course, Pettiku, Jack Broadbent, Tom Davis, all 150 plus meters. But Martin did a great job there without really being tested too much.
It did, and I was impressed with Reece Martin last night. I was one of the first to raise my eyebrows, as in, is at centre, and it's not a place I'd particularly want him to play. But last night, no, he didn't let us down. He put his hand up for driving the ball in. He didn't shy away from any work. My only concern is Catalan maybe don't have that. They're probably not that good enough to exploit weaknesses on that edge. very much like Warrington did a few weeks ago, and that's why Reece got upped after half an hour. So fair play to Reece, he did a job, but coming up against Warrington, for me, it's a no-no for Reece there because Warrington exploited that weakness time and time again when we played them at the HG a few weeks back. But against Catalan, it was all right. But for me, Catalan is just an average opposition. And I don't want to be too disrespectful on Catalan, but, you know, the table don't lie. The results don't lie. If we was up against a bit more quality, maybe they'd have the rugby IQ to exploit a few weaknesses there. I think going into the Warrington game, I think Reece should be back in the second row. I kind of understand why he was put in centre because he's a regular goal kicker and, you know, we know Mikey, no Artemore, it kind of makes sense to fit him in that side. So, yeah, from that point of view, it does make sense, but when you're coming up against better opposition like we will be on Tuesday, I don't think that's the place for Reece, and I don't want to be too critical on that.
No, and we don't know what the situation with Ollie Gildart, do we? Whether he's going to be fit.
Oh, I don't. I was talking to him yesterday.
What did you say?
I was talking to him yesterday. He's done a ligament in his toe. He's looking at 1 to 2 weeks. So, right. Yeah, he's done, mate. He won't be back for Warrington or Solo. He's hoping for the week after. So we've still got that centre spot to fill. And that's why, me personally, I'm hoping it's no above. And
well, look. At the end of the day, Bazza, Reece Martin's got some wrongs to right because he didn't have the greatest game, did he, against Warrington, where he eventually got hooked by Willie Peters, didn't he, for his performance. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see which direction Willie Peters goes on Tuesday because it's a short turnaround. He's talked about the fact that the players won't be on the grass that much between now and Tuesday. He's going to probably do a light training session and, of course, a captain's run. We're going to talk about Warrington in more detail after Robin's revisited. I just want to bring something to, I don't know, Willie Peters has always talked about the performance. So the performance brings the result. And he can be not happy, but accepts a loss if the performance is what he expects. If you start looking at what he's saying now after games, and last night in particular, he's saying that the result's the most important thing. He's saying about the 2 points. He's saying about, obviously, for the chase for the playoffs and making sure we get a top 4 finish and stuff. And it seems like a slight shift away from what Willie Peters always talks about. He's always talked about the performance. Get the performance right, and more often than not, the result will come. Now, and I don't know if I've seen it in the players, but that chasing a victory, they seem to be chasing the victory, chasing the 2 points, more than maybe putting the performance in, as daft as that sounds.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, and Willie Peters has always gone by performance. I think this time, we're in a bit of unfamiliar territory, if that makes sense, because Willie's first season, you know, in 2023, his aim was best performance, worst performance, not too far apart. Yeah. And he was striving for that. And we saw that in 24. And then we built on that in 25. This year has been completely different. We've had the target on the back. We've found ourselves playing catch-up. I think Willie will probably have the belief in his players, in his squad and in his staff that we can get it done when it counts. So right now, first and foremost, while we're playing catch-up at the latter end of the season, I think right now, just keep ticking these wins over and we'll see what happens. And he probably knows that the players have got absolutely more to give. But right now, we are playing catch-up. Whether you like it or not, we're playing catch-up. And I'd say we're trying to stay in that top 6 spot after last night's results. And when you look at things, we could actually aim a little bit higher and, you know, have a little look at that second position because we win on Tuesday. We're literally 4 points off top spot. Now, it does look beyond reach right now, but we still are within a shout of getting that second spot. So I think first and foremost, get into the 4, build on that, and then try and get into that second spot. And we keep ticking these wins over. First and foremost, I think that right now is priority when it counts, and you know, the rest will take care of itself, because I think Willie knows deep down these boys have got a performance to be proud of. But first and foremost, in this massive roster, what we've got right now, just keep ticking these wins off, no matter how ugly they have to be. Just keep ticking the wins off, and the rest will take care of itself. But that's only my thoughts. I could be way off.
And well, to be fair, mate, that's the test, isn't it? Because you know we are picking up the victories. But let's be honest, we're beating teams we should be beating. And that's been a feature of the season, apart from, you know, look at York, first game of the season. Where we've come unstuck is when we've played games, albeit the, you know, the World Cup Challenge and the Challenge Cup semi-final victory over Warrington. It's the games where we've come up against either a side higher in the table or a game that we do need to win. That's where we've come up short this season, and that's why Tuesday, for me, is a massive game, because for me, that if we win that one, that gives me the confidence that this Robins side can make a real push for that top four, and if they do get in the top four, go on to win a semi-final game and get into the grand. If we lose against Warrington, it gives me major concerns about where this side is going to go come the back end of the season.
I don't know. I mean, I still have faith in the boys. You know,
I've got total faith, mate. But look at the games we've played.
Yeah,
Leeds, Wigan. You know,
but
we've come up short.
No. We'll beat the Wigan kids, right?
No, take that. You can't have that one.
Yeah, no. But you know, the only team who's really had our number is the Rhinos. I thought we was incredibly unlucky against Wakefield at the DIY Kitchen Stadium. I thought we was incredibly unlucky. When we played Wakefield at our place, we were shite. We was nowhere near, right? So it's literally Leeds who's had our number. We haven't faced Wigan yet. I think that's going to be the true test, you know, after Tullow go into the brick community. One team, I don't think Lee Leopards get enough credit because they are a decent side. What team has beat Leeds at Leeds this year? There's only Lee who did it last night. There's only Lee who's done the double over Leeds. Yet we're able to do the double over Lee. You know, not many teams can do that. But that is where I do have some sort of hope that we can do what we need to do. So we have got, like, the Wigan to play. You know, we owe Warrington one for what they've done. We tick them two off, mate. Anything can happen, you know, absolutely anything. I mean, it's not the end of the world if we don't get the result on Tuesday. I firmly believe that we will. And we just keep ticking them off. I genuinely feel right now there's all this spotlight on Leeds and Wakefield. Nobody's talking about Hull Kingston Rovers, and we are going under the radar. And I think that's better for us, and I think the best is yet to come. And this isn't me seeing things through rose-tinted glasses. We've had some shit performances, but found a way to win, and that is what championship sides do.
Yeah,
and I really believe in it.
We're going to speak more about the Warrington game very shortly, and we've got all your questions to answer during question time. We're also going to talk about the proposed NRL investment in Super League and the offer that they've given the Super League to buy a controlling or part stake in the competition. But before then, let's have Steve Till with Robins Revisited.
Hi Chris, and we're coming up to our game in hand, aren't we, against Warrington on the 18th of this month, and I'm going to go back to another game against Warrington, 2008, and it was played on the 17th of the month, and what a remarkable game it was too. Warrington were aiming for a playoff place, as were Rovers. But Warrington had been beaten the week before by 1 point by St Helens, and they were hoping that they could go one better this week. However, two strong teams took the field. Rovers, Sean Briscoe, Peter Fox, John Steele, Chris Wellham, Jake Webster. They were the three quarters. Halfbacks Benny Gallier and Michael Dobson. and the forwards were Macaulay Azul, Benny Fisher, David Mills, Michael Vella, Jason Netherton, and Stanley himself, Stanley Jean. The subs for Rovers were, Paul Cook, Garrett Crossman, Ben Cockayne, and Jason Netherton, with Justin Morgan as the coach. It was a strong Warrington team, a rough, tough pack, which was headed by Adrian Morley, the club captain for Warrington, and included Benny Westwood and Lee Mitchell. John Clark was hooking, and they had a decent three-quarter line as well, with Martin Gleeson and Matt King being the two centres. They also had people like Paul Wood and Mike Cooper on the bench, and James Lowes was their coach. So, as I say, Warrington came into the game having been beaten by St Helens just by 1 point the week before, and it was looking tough for Rovers, especially after the first 4 minutes when Chris Hicks grabbed the opening try. He went on to kick 5 conversions for the hosts, but typifying the seesaw nature of the first half of the match, Rovers responded in impressive fashion. When Jake Webster found his way to the line, Dobson converted before he added a penalty, and it was 8-4 to Rovers. But Warrington came back. Wellham's poor tackle on Chris Riley was punished when Lee Breers dummied his way over, and the Rovers centre was also placed on report over the incident. He did, however, make amends when, shortly after, with the first of 2 tries that he scored. The first one, and then, so he got the try converted by Dobson. But again, another bad challenge by Wellham, this time on Riley, led to a try for Benny Westwood for the home team. After Martin Gleeson darted through straight from a scrum, Hicks' third goal meant that the Wolves went in at half-time with a healthy 22-12 cushion, and Simon Griggs scored a try immediately after the break to make the gap even further. And it was at that stage it seemed so certain that Rovers would suffer an 8th defeat in their last 10 outings. However, on came Paul Cook from the bench, and somehow Rovers climbed off the canvas, starting with the Ben Cockayne try from a Benny Galea kick. And even though a Breers 40-20 led to Griggs' second try, the Robins refused to be beaten. Fox capitalising on a blunder by Kevin Perry to start a crazy closing 6 minutes of a pulsating match. Fox, the England international, as he was then sprinted 70 metres to score again. And Cook, playing his second game back since being disciplined by the Cup, set up Wellham to draw Rovers level. That was in the 80th minute. So we're in the 80th minute, the hooter has sounded, and Michael Dobson, the score at that point was, let me get this right, 34-34, and Dobson needed to kick his 6th goal of the match to give Rovers a success, and kick it he did. So Rovers won a remarkable match by 36 points to 34. It didn't get them in place in the playoff finals, but we were just one place out of that place. But it was a remarkable performance with an amazing last 15 minutes. Let's hope we can get some of the same next week, with Rovers coming out on top, of course.
A huge thanks to Steve Till for bringing us Robins Revisited once again. Bazza, we've talked about Warrington briefly before. Robins Revisited, it is a big game, isn't it? Because when we look at the league table, the fact that the Lee Leopards beat Leeds last night means there's a bit more pressure on the Robins. Plus, with the fact that we've got Warrington next, and then Wigan, after the Toulouse game, there is an opportunity for us to get into that top 4 spot. I think Wakefield are the team that we're chasing down, aren't they, to get into there? But there is a great opportunity. And like we said, you said, keep picking off them wins. But that's why I think Tuesday is really important for the Robins.
Yeah, it is. And, that top six is becoming very, very congested right now. And it can all change in the blink of an eye. I mean, the fixtures next weekend, I think Wakefield have got to travel to Wigan, so that could go either way. And if we get over the line against Warrington and then get over the line against Toulouse, we can find ourselves up to third, And right now that's huge. And that's why, as big as the game is against Warrington on Tuesday, it's not do or die, in my humble opinion. It'd be amazing if we could win it, because then, the sights get a little bit higher and we'll keep knocking these little wins off. But, right now we can't take nothing for granted, and we're going to have to go full tilt at Warrington on Tuesday.
Yeah, are you expecting any major squad changes? Of course, we mentioned the players who might not feature because of injury. Are you expecting any rotation in terms of keeping the squad fresh, bearing in mind that they play Toulouse on Saturday?
I'd expect Mikey. Well, Mikey should come straight back in, bring us that energy, and he's got a hell of a lot of making up to do to his teammates, to his coach, and to the fans. And we need to see the best version of Mikey. Whether Tyrone's playing on Tuesday or not, that remains to be seen. But as for forwards, again, I'd like to stick with Tavita, playing, whether he's on the bench or starting. It's just a case of if Jesse's fit and what Jesse can offer us, it was a bit gutting to see Jordan Desiree, which we haven't mentioned yet, in a boat yesterday on the touchline. It looks like he's going to be out for an extended period, but I can see a little bit of rotation in the squad, but not too much. I think if he's going to rotate for any game, I think Toulouse would be the ideal one without putting too much disrespect on Toulouse. I think that Toulouse game would be a good opportunity just to rotate things a little bit more before we go to the brick. But I think for Warrington, I wouldn't want to change too much. But changes as in what needs to be made is Mikey coming back into the side.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Lewis is obviously the big one coming in. Obviously, the fact that Sausosu may then be coming back into the side does raise a question about what that bench may look like in terms of if, May does or doesn't play. And I'm surprised really that we did go with Lawton and Leyland both on the bench last night, bearing in mind that Lawton can fill in at hooker, and of course we saw him spelling Minchella. Leyland is an out-and-out hooker. There's no really other position that he can play, is there? That is the position that he does play. Pangai Jr., Baza, he was all right, wasn't he, last night? He didn't really pull up any trees, did he? I thought it was a decent introduction after a long layoff. I'm probably expecting or hoping for a bit more from him against Warrington.
Yeah, 6 games out is a hell of a lot of time to be missing. I think you've got to credit to Vita for the way he's massively trimmed down. It looks a different beast. I'm just hoping he ain't gone too light, if that makes sense. But he's got them minutes under his belt now, so he's a little more battle hardened, ready to go into Warrington. And hopefully we'll get a better version of Tavita. It was a strange one seeing him in the back row last night. So whether that's going to be his preferred position or if he'll switch back into props remains to be seen. Done it for Tuesday.
Yeah, and we've got lots of questions to answer during question time. We spoke a lot about Warrington. It does feel like it's a really, really important game, and we're hoping it's one where the Robins really rise to the challenge. Do you think there's a fatigue issue, or do you think the players are probably going to embrace it? Because I bet if you ask the players, what would you rather do? Would you rather train or would you rather play? I bet they'd rather just keep knocking off games rather than they would be out on the training pitch. And to be fair, let's be honest, at this stage of the season, they shouldn't be doing too much fitness work because the pre-season is so important for that. That's where they lay the foundations. This next couple of days between last night's victory over Catalan and the game against Warrington is really just fine-tuning some of the things that they didn't get right against Catalan and probably having one eye on Warrington and just fine-tuning that game plan. And I dare say, you know, as much as there's been a lot of noise about the fact that the Robins have got 3 games in, 9 days, I reckon the players are relishing it. I reckon they're enjoying the fact that they're going straight into another game.
Yeah, as do I. And, you know, if you ask a lot of the players, I don't think they particularly enjoy these heavy pre-seasons, these heavy training runs. So for them to go back to back, I think, like you say, they'll be relishing this chance. And, you know, they say they don't listen to outside noise, but so many people have wrote us off. I think they'll be well up for it, you know, going back to back, you know, 3 games in the space of, is it 9 days? Something should be like that. I think it'll suit the players more, and you can see that we do our rehab, we do our recovery really, really well. And I think if, you know, we'll look after the players in between games, I think they'll be well up for it, mate, and they'll be ready to get back out on the field on Tuesday.
Yeah, right. Okay, Bazza, we're looking forward to Tuesday. It's going to be an interesting count of the fact we've got a game on a Tuesday night, which is no doubt putting people's plans, you know, what the usual routine all over the place. But yeah, let's embrace it. I'm sure the players are going to do that. Before we answer your questions in question time, though, Bazza, of course, away from the Robins, the big story at the moment is the NRL proposed investment in Super League. Now they've tabled an offer which is 35 million quid over 5 seasons with I think is it a 10%, wanting a 10% controlling stake in the competition with an independent commission set up to then govern the competition. With that, also they're wanting DAZN to take the 4 games that Sky Sports won't then take, because Sky Sports look like they're committing to 3 games as part of the new deal. We don't know what money's on the table as part of that. DAZN, they'll then take the other 4 games as part of that £35 million investment over 5 years. And when you start boiling it down, Bazza, it's probably not the offer we expected, and it's probably not the offer the clubs expected.
I'll be honest with you, mate. You've caught me off guard a little bit there because I didn't know them figures. I saw something reported a few days ago where they wanted 50% stake in Super League.
That's what they're aiming over the 5 years. Yeah. That's where they want to get to. That is where they want to get to. But I think for now, it's a start of that.
Well, when I run some figures the other day, it just did not add up for me. As in, it worked out per club over the 5 years. Per club was getting like roughly around 300 grand in cash injection on top of whatever the TV deal is. And for me, I think it's shit. Excuse my language, but for half of ownership of the Super League and each club only getting 300 grand, I'm sorry, but that's not going to improve.
Well, Baz, as well, don't forget that money is spread a bit thinner as well, because by all accounts, the NRL is determined to get London into Super League. So that's over 50. So that you either keep what you've got, which is 14 plus 1, or one of the existing 14 drops out. Now, are they going to use IMG gradings for that to put a team down? We don't know yet. So you got the option where potentially there could be 15 teams in Super League next season. So the money spreads thinner again. And also York and Toulouse and Bradford are going to get an increase in their funding.
Well,
because don't forget they're operating on half the money. That's Super League.
Bradford already had full funding for this year. They got up on IMG. It was Toulouse and York. Only got half funding.
So them 2 teams are going to get full funding this season, next season.
So it's not enough, mate. Not for 50% stake in our league. You know, for it to improve. I mean, we don't know the TV deal rights. You know, let's say it stays at 1.2 million and there's a cash injection of 300 grand per club per year. That only takes it to 1.5. some clubs are going to piss that up the wall on one marquee signing, like them, that dirty lot who's just signed a pensioner. I think each club needs to receive funding of around £2 million a year. And if it's going to be the NRL's money, a lot of it, the NRL's money, it needs to be structured of they've got to invest X amount into their academy, X amount into match day experience, stadium upgrades, and then X amount into marquee signings. And I know it sounds like the NRL are telling clubs how to spend the money, but some clubs need that guidance instead of pissing it up the wall, because we do lose too many clubs who throw too much money at, overrated players. So, me personally, I think it's a rubbish deal. It's not enough. It's diluting our sport. It is good that the NRL's getting involved, but I just think our sport's worth more than that, and I think we need more cash flow for our sport to thrive and not just survive but grow. So yeah, for me, it's a bit of a rubbish deal, and I think the clubs deserve more if we are to improve this sport across this side of the world.
Yeah, and to be fair, mate, it's a good deal for DAZN, isn't it? If they're going to get the 4 other games that Sky are picking up as part of this deal, and I think that's the bit I don't like, because I think there's an opportunity there for Super League to potentially bring in another broadcaster, regardless of this. It shouldn't be dependent on the NRL investment. So, hey, look, what we do know is it's an opening offer. It's not, there's an opportunity to negotiate. We also know Peter V'landers is a very tough negotiator. Let's be honest, everything he does is for the benefit of the NRL. As much as there's a talk about unifying the game and rugby league being bigger on the international stage and having more of a presence, let's not get away from the fact it's all with a view to making the NRL stronger. It's not about, it's not about making. He wants Super League stronger to benefit the NRL. That's what it's all about. So that's why they've probably gone there with the offer that they have, and we'll see where that goes. So, like you said, Bazza, we don't know what Sky are putting on the table yet. We don't know what that offer looks like. Sky, I know they get a lot of derision from people, but let's be honest, they've bankrolled Super League for a good number of years, and I dare to think where Super League would be without Sky Sports. That be said, we can't just sort of bend over and let Sky Sports, give us whatever they want. There is a point where, like you said, the value of the competition, we can't just roll over and let it be diminished to the point where actually the investment means that the game's not viable as an elite sport. So let's see where that comes out.
It's not only that, John. Betfred's pulling out at the end of the year as well. So
and look at what they sponsor. They sponsor every single thing in rugby league.
So there's a lot of work to be done commercially for the game right now, and we need to get like the best possible sponsor who's willing to put the cash flow up and really promote our sport. So there's a lot of work to do commercially, and hopefully it's done correctly. And a lot of people slate Nigel Wood, myself included, but ultimately right now the game rests on his shoulders of making the right decisions for the comp.
Yeah, and that's probably why we're seeing a bit of a stagnated transfer market as well, in terms of normally we'd see a raft of announcements for next season. Don't get me wrong, there's been a handful, but clubs don't know where they're at. Clubs don't know what money they've got to play with for next season, and because of that, and I think this is one of the reasons why Rovers aren't doing a lot of business, they're just staying stable, knowing what they've got, rather than have a big turnover of players departing without having the opportunity to bring players in without knowing what the budget is going to be. And I think that's why they're going through, Pet Hiku one more year, Sauso Su one more year, that's why I think they're doing it. So we'll see. Right, Bazza, we're going to finish off with question time. Bazza, Ginger John, he says, why are players watching the screen replay when a potential captain challenge comes? We see time and again players get get asked to get asked by the referee, do they want to challenge, and then they look at the screen and decide. I mean, there's no one who does that more than Elliot Minchella, is he? I think he got told off, didn't he? Was it early on in the season by maybe Liam Moore about, hey, stop looking at the screen. But to be fair, why not? If it's there and you can see it, it does give you a slight advantage, doesn't it?
No, big shout out to Ginger John as well. He messaged me about the Robin Pod, to promote it on his own Facebook page, Red Army for the Rovers fans. No, it's a great question, and I think last year they wouldn't show replay until a captain had made a decision. So why that's changed this year, I don't know. We all love it when it benefits us. When it don't benefit us, we're spitting feathers over it. I just think it just pretty much sums up our game right now, how it's poorly run amongst the officials with who's in charge of the screens and not. So, no, for me, I think it should revert back to last year, not have a replay.
I'd love to look at the stats, Bazza, because we haven't been great. From in my opinion, we don't seem to have been great with captain's challenges this season.
No, we don't.
I might be wrong, but I don't. Yeah, if anyone's collating them stats, let us know. But yeah, we don't seem to have been great. I mean, that one against that lot in the derby in the first what minute? Come on, you've got to be really shrewd, aren't you? When you use them.
Yeah, you do, mate. And again, it's just about being smart in it, and just because you have a quick glance at the screen and it might look all right on the screen, that screen doesn't show you in detail of what that video ref goes into. So for me, for a level playing field, mate, don't show a replay until the captain's made his mind up. Once the captain's made his mind up, show that replay as many times as you want.
Yeah, Rob Woodall says, do you think it's about time people started looking at positives instead? We are winning, beat Warrington and go 4 points off the top. Isn't half as bad as people are making out. Peaking in time for the playoffs. I think, like we said, Bazza, like we've discussed, it's all right beating Castleford. It's all right beating Catalan. Can we beat Warrington? Can we beat Leeds? Can we beat Wigan? That's for me the acid test now.
Yeah, it is, and you can be positive, but be positive with a realistic expectation. I think that's the key right now. We're all going to be positive about our club, but it's about how you manage your expectations, and based on what we've been like this year, you can be positive by keep ticking the wins off, and anything can happen. But you've still also got to be realistic of what could potentially happen once you come up against an absolutely red hot Wigan Warriors or Leeds Rhinos. So no, he's right. Be positive, but just be realistic with it at the same time.
Yeah, and hey, I tell you what, mate, Warrington on Tuesday, if Sue is fit and he plays in that side, and of course Michael Lewis is coming back, Ronnie, Ollie Gildart, and Jordan Desaria, away, and Artemog from a fully fit squad. But Jack Broadbent put in a fantastic performance last night, which showed the fact that he can cover Artemog like he has done so well so far this season. But we're not struggling with 5, 6, 7, 8 injuries. We are pretty much running nearly close to full tilt, albeit Artemog is a big miss. So let's see what happens on Tuesday. Julie, obviously with another home game on Tuesday night, mate. She says, where has our atmosphere gone? Last night was flat. The boys need us now. She's got a point, hasn't she? Like it ain't rocking. Let's be honest. Craven Park ain't rocking on a match day, but the opposition don't help either, do they? Like no. That should and that sounds daft because really it shouldn't matter who you're playing. When you're backing the boys, you back the boys whether they're playing Toulouse, Wigan, Warrington, whoever they're playing. It doesn't matter. But I get the point that at times it does go a little bit flat.
Yeah, it does, and it's. I don't want to say embarrassing, but it can be like a library. I'm across in the well, and you can hear conversations going across in the East Stand, and we've said it all year, and I genuinely believe it's down to the opposition. if it's a team we're expected to put 20, 30 points on, you know, maybe it's the fans don't feel like they need to get beat out the boys, but I don't feel like in some sticky situations, you know, the boys love it, the boys thrive off it, and they up the performance, they up the tempo levels when that crowd's really at full tilt with the old vocal cords. But you know, there's a few mitigating factors, mate. If it's an hot, muggy night like it was last night, you're crammed in that east stand. It's a weird one, mate. All I know, and I think Julie's bob on, Tuesday night, I think the boys are going to really need us up their arse more than ever, screaming and singing and really fucking going for it, and, you know, to really help them get over the line. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah, there's no doubt whatsoever, mate, that the players will need us. Whether they need us up their ass or not is probably...
Yeah, I didn't word that correctly, did I?
Yeah, so, yeah, I won't be clipping that one. Gary Lee says, after the wear shit comments from 3 or 4 weeks ago from supporters, do we now believe in Willie? I don't think anybody ever stopped believing, but you've got to be honest, at the time, the performances weren't great either, was they? So no one's, no one's, can escape criticism sometimes, but, look where we are now.
Well, that's it, and I don't feel like a lot of negativity come around from certain individuals about our coaching staff or our players. I think a lot of it is unjust, and maybe, I don't know. I just think it's balmy that I didn't have any sort of trust in Willie because of what he's done here, and he's on the big bucks. He's delivered something. Many's tried, many's failed. So we've always believed in Willie, and we're just mere fans who may question one or two of his decisions, and ultimately us as fans, we do get proved wrong because Willie knows best, and so do the players, and hence why we've done what we've done. And like I say, we're still knocking off the wins. We have had some poor performances this year, but they're only human out there, and everyone has human error in them. So for me, not as far as I'm concerned, I've never stopped believing in Willie.
Yeah, trust in Willie. Matt Brady says, you ignored this last time, Jono. Thoughts on Minchella leaving at the end of the season? Also looks like May may be leaving. Any ideas on replacements? Well, Tyrone May's on a 2-year deal, isn't he? And he's, let's be honest, he's made no secret of the fact that he wants to play with his brothers. So you'd think eventually that is going to happen, and you'd imagine it's going to be at the end of his 2-year contract. Minchella's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Bradford are determined to get their old academy back together. We saw James Bentley recently announced. We saw John Bateman's going back there. Elliot Minchella, of course, started his career with Bradford. It'd be a huge loss to lose our captain.
It would.
It's not hard to replace your captain. Don't forget, he's on a long-term deal as well, isn't he? And he's at a right old age in terms of his career, where he's probably going to come into the best form. And we've seen his form pick up over the last 4, 5, 6 games. So I don't want to lose him. No, a big hole to fill.
It is, but ultimately, all I see in that, and I mean, I don't want to disrespect Mark in any way, shape, or form. It's just whispers at the minute. There's nothing confirmed. It's just rumours. Some may know more than others. I don't really want to comment so much, but if players was to depart, I trust that Neil Udgell and Paul Lake and Nathan Kalis will have suitable replacements lined up. But I think a lot of it, whatever movement there is in the transfer market, I think that all depends on whatever this investment is with the NRL, and if they're going to up the salary cap. So I think right now it's in the air, and if we do end up losing Ty or Mini, I dare say there will be suitable replacements. But again, it's just speculation right now.
Yeah, James Scruton asks, he says, do you agree we should go full tilt against Warrington on Tuesday, then play fringe players and young lads against a very winnable home game versus Toulouse? I think we mentioned. I can't imagine there being any drastic changes. And Julie Rodman, she asked a similar question along them lines about the lineup for Tuesday. I think we'll be at full tilt. Toulouse, like you said, Bazza, I think there might be an opportunity to rotate some players there. That said, you can't take Toulouse lightly. Look at some of the results that they've come up with this season. So they're no mugs whatsoever. So, hey, let's see. I think, like you said, I think we will go full tilt. I think everyone who's fit and available, and if they're in Willie Peters' first 13, like we know he loves to have, they're playing. There's no doubt about that. Let's see what happens against Toulouse. But I suppose if you're fit and ready to go, there's no need to rest players. So we'll see what happens against Toulouse. Adam Brooks says, we're crying out for pace. Sport is harsh, and I'd be looking at replacing Gildart if possible. And I think Batchelor should replace with a more mobile second row. He's great in defence, but he's nowhere near mobile enough. My main take out of the season going forward is as soon as we play a decent team, we will get beat playing Cass and Bradford has papered over some of the cracks. We missed too many tackles, 44 against Catalan last night, and teams better than the named above will take advantage of it. Something we've been talking about throughout this episode of the Robin Pod. Interesting comments, though, about Batchelor and pace in the side. We're not blessed necessarily, but then again, look at Peter Hickle, that break he put through. So we're not slouches, you know. No. But look at Charlie Staines. There's not that, you know, at the end of the day, there's a reason, like Usain Bolt isn't a rugby league player. You know,
I think that there's a lot to digest in that. I don't particularly think we are a slow side. You know, we've got pace and strike across the park. Budgie can do 80, 90 metres and not get caught. Davis, he's on his heels. And I think we may be looking a little bit laggy because we haven't had that injection of pace from Mikey Lewis for the last 4 games, you know, what he has to offer. And, you know, he's a ball running half and he's really explosive with his runs and offers a lot of pace. So maybe that's why it looks like we're maybe not as pacey because Mikey's not been there. As for Batch, I love Batch, you know. He's not the flashiest of back rowers, but what he does is important. And like Dino, you could slate Dino as prop, he'd never bust a lamb, but it's what he does as that prop. And it's not always about the Kalepi Tanganoa barnstorming runs. Sometimes it's the little details, what matter, what James Batchelor does bring to us, what Dean Hadley does bring to us. It's them effort areas what are important. You know, it might not be a barnstorming run, but I trust that our right edge has been the strongest it's looked in years over the last 2 or 3 years when Batch has been there. So, you know, maybe he has been flogged a bit, Batch, this year. Maybe he is a little bit laggy, a little bit tired, but no, I've got absolutely no issues with Batch and what he brings to our side whatsoever. And as for the pace, I think we will up our pace once Mikey's back in there and he offers us that ball running threat that we know he can.
Yeah, and you know, let's be honest, there's no doubt whatsoever. You know, James Batchelor's attacking threat isn't as potent as maybe some other players, but I tell you what, he more than makes up for it by solidifying our defence in the effort and the graft and the work he gets through. So I couldn't understand what people are saying, but look, I think we'd be a far worse team without him in it.
100%.
Ian Dixon, he says, along the same theme, team is so lacking in pace. There little difference in the forwards. For next season, Hiku needs to play second row, and we need at least one fast centre, maybe 2. Wino Booth last night, we needed his pace. Reese is never a centre. Big improvements need for Tuesday. Batch and Dino have been flogged this year and look as though the season can't end soon enough for Batch. Shadow of his last season, sadly. Good to see Bill gets, I think, some very, very harsh criticism, and everyone's entitled to the viewpoint. And I'm appreciative of people putting their views across. I think if you ask Dino if he wants the season to end, I think he'd be playing in his wheelchair if he could. I think he just absolutely loves the game. I think Batch was all right last night. Hickle at centre, never going to happen. He is an out-and-out centre. And it was interesting hearing his pre-match press conference about the impact Willie Peters has had on his career at the Robins, about saying how he's made him a bit more nasty and a bit more aggressive and a bit more not as nice to play. And I think we've seen that. And I tell you what, Peter Hiku, I wonder when you speak to him, when you ask him about when he was happiest in his career, I bet he's playing some of the best rugby league he's ever played.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, he even got a call up to the New Zealand international side. So, and that was performance based, and he has looked at a fantastic centre for us. You know, he is guilty of a few missed tackles, but this is what I mean is important by James Batchelor, because he's on that right side. So if Petter misses a tackle, Batch is there to clean up. And, you know, I think some people don't see the game quite like others, and I don't want to disrespect anyone who's commented, because, like you say, grateful for all the comments. I think it's just sometimes the way it's delivered, and that, you know, if you ask James Batchelor if he wants the season done and dusted right now, I think he'd laugh at you. You know, like I say, there's mitigating circumstances like the bloody humidity. These boys have had a massive year. They've had the hype of what happened last year, trips out to Vegas, World Club. You know, these guys haven't had a rest for a few years, but that doesn't mean to say they want it to end now. They just want to keep going. And yeah, to say Dino and Batch want to look like they're ready for the season to end, I'm going to have to politely disagree with that comment.
Yeah, massive thank you. Adam, he just finishes with maybe the fact that Warrington is such a big game and there's a lot riding on it will help the atmosphere and will help people really get behind the boys for the full 80 minutes. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. This has been the Robin Pod, which is powered by Budget Tyres Autocentre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of the world-famous Hull Kingston Rovers. Bazza, a huge thanks for your contribution once again on the Robin Pod, of course. If you're going to Craven Park on Tuesday night, make sure you are loud and proud, as I'm sure you will be. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
Is the Robin Pod. Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with Brisbane's fall. The Robins superb, now we won. Champions of the world.